So this is the second time I've had to re-record these since the first versions were lagging. What's going on, everyone? My Assassination. Welcome back to the channel. This is Joshua Drake, and welcome back to the road to James Gunn's Superman, which is a few days away. This is going to be my thoughts on Superman 3, the movie that a lot of people like to say killed the Superman franchise. But I have a different opinion on it. This was the third movie in the Christopher Reeve era of Superman films. This was once again directed by Richard Lester, but this time written by David and Leslie Newman. This stars once again Christopher Reeve and Margot Kidder and Mark McClure returning for their parts, as well as Jackie Cooper, while you have Richard Pryor and Annette O'Toole and Annie Ross, Robert Vaughn, and Pamela Stevenson joining this time around. The premise of Superman 3 is Superman battles a corrupt businessman who has constructed a powerful supercomputer to kill him. Superman 3 is pretty much infamous for being the movie that damn near killed the Superman series, or the movie that people like to say the beginning of the end for Superman. So here's what happened in production history here. After the release of Superman 2, Richard Donner confirmed that he had interest in writing at least 2 more movies with Tom Mankiewicz to direct, and he wanted to use Brainiac as the lead of the third film. So during the filming of Superman 2, he departed the series because he and the Salkinds and Pierce Spengler could not agree on anything when it comes to the film. And on terms of that, the Salkinds wrote a treatment, which I've read this treatment, which is online. In the treatment, we had Brainiac, Mr. Mixpig, and Supergirl. And the Mr. Mixpig was portrayed in the outline as a different version from his comic counterpart. Brainiac was portrayed as a father to Supergirl and fell in love with his daughter. And then you had Superman and Supergirl that were going to fall in love. And they were going to team up and fight Brainiac. And Superman and Supergirl were going to get married. Not the best option for Superman 3. Even though I still think it would be cool to see Superman and Supergirl team up in live action. It depends on how this new one turns out at the box office. But this script was rejected because of the high budgets required for the series. The Salkinds sold the rights, but what happened was they chose a different approach. And the production of this, Gene Hackman and Margot Kidder were pretty angry with the Salkinds and how they treated Superman. It retaliated by refusing to reprise the role of Lex Luthor. And so what happened was Christopher Reeve was contracted for 7 movies, but he engaged a lawyer to renegotiate his contract prior to production. So the producers, of course, described the process of returning, and Richard Pryor agreed to do it because of the fact of how much he enjoyed the first Superman film. And so the movie did come out, didn't get the best reception or the best reviews critically, and this was seen to be a pretty big step down from it. And my history when it comes to this Superman film was, when I first saw this one as a kid, I didn't really like Superman 3 all that much. I thought it was too goofy, it was just really taking shit too far, and I just did not like the approach of what they were going for with this. But, given this with fresh eyes, I have actually grown to really enjoy the fact that this is actually a very fun film. Now, I'll say this now, I still have my quarrels and my issues when it comes to this movie, but I will say of these later Christopher Reeve Superman movies, this is the one I can tolerate compared to Superman 4. Oh, I got some shit to say with Superman 4. It's not a great movie, but I'll say this. I've come to fully accept this for what it is. It's a guilty pleasure. Don't get me wrong. I can definitely see why this was the movie that nearly killed or started the beginning of the end of the Superman downfall. I'll start off with some of the things I like in this movie first. I will say, from a directing standpoint, Richard Lester, he directs this movie pretty nicely. It's not Richard Donner's direction for the first two, but I would say Richard Lester, for what he's given here in terms of the screenplay, I do like what he's going for here in terms of the direction and also some of the ideas that we have in here. The film is a mess. It does know it, but this here, I feel he's given more creative control to do what he sets out to do in his filmmaking. So I will say, there's an issue I have with the direction, which we'll go into in the negatives, but I will say at least this feels more like one voice and not a situation where it's a production trouble like Superman 2. But his direction, he fully embraces the stuff that he knows best. And I do think it works a lot better in this movie here. And I actually prefer his Superman 3 over his version of Superman 2. Even though I like Superman 2, the theatrical version, this feels more like a complete vision here. There are some fun moments here where I actually don't mind here in terms of some of the action here. You have one fantastic moment in this movie where you have Superman fighting the evil Superman and having a psychological battle of the minds that I feel like in better movies it has been done better, especially the Supergirl television series. I will say that's the standout action scene here. There's also another fun action scene where he takes on the supercomputer and kicks a missile to blow up the other missiles and alter the kryptonite, turning Superman evil, causing him to do crazy things, especially drinking. That's a lot of goofiness, but you know what? I can have some fun with the goofiness. Some of it here goes a little too far in some areas, but I would say the direction is fine for what you're getting here. Cinematography is shot very well. I do like the way this movie is shot. It looks entertaining to watch for 1983. It's shot well and it's well filmed and it's well made. So I will say that's why I think the movie does succeed the most, is when it's a well shot and a well lit movie. I also like the story here when it comes to Superman. Superman, his part where he is going back to Smallville in terms of his high school reunion and catches up with Lana Lane, which it does feel like you're missing one character here, which we'll address it when I get there. But I will say I did like that part of it. I also enjoyed some parts of Gus Gorman's character. And granted, this is where I will say this is a fine line between the positive and the negative here, because on one end, you get Gus Gorman. You do have some fun with Richard Pryor's performance here, which I'll say it right now, he does have some acting chops in some of the movies that I've seen him in. And I may not be the biggest fan of Richard Pryor, which it depends on how you can take the humor of him, but for what we get of him, I actually don't mind his performance. He does fine as Gus. He grows on me this time around, and the more times I've watched it, even though some of his comedy is still taken a little bit too far. So that's something I will actually give some credibility to. I do think he did try to put some effort into it and make it the best he can. So that's one thing I will give to Richard Pryor. I will also say the Superman theme is still here. It's still awesome. I like the score. It's very entertaining. It's nowhere near John Williams, but I like the score here this time around by the composer of Scarface, Giorgio Moroder. There's some moments of action is fine. I also like the rest of the cast here. Christopher Reeve still does great as Superman here. You could tell that in some moments he doesn't want to do this because it's not Richard Donner, but he's like, I'll do it for the fans. The rest of the cast here is also pretty fine here. I do say Annette O'Toole makes a wonderful Lana Lane, and I will say her relationship is pretty great with Clark. That's actually my favorite part of the movie. Also, Annette O'Toole, it helps that she is ridiculously beautiful. In the 80s, Annette O'Toole, I think she's still a beautiful woman now, even though she's not doing a lot of acting nowadays, but I'll say she's very good in this movie here. I will also say a lot of the returning members here are good. Jackie Cooper as Perry White is still fun. I still very much like Mark McClure. I also still really enjoy a lot of the other actors here. Of course, the main villain, we'll get to him, but I think performance-wise, he does fine for what is required of him, what is asked of him. I've already touched on Richard Pryor, of course. You also have Annie Ross as Vera Webster. Pamela Stevenson, wow, I liked her performance in this. She's pretty good as Lorelei Ambrosio. She feels like a prototype of Eve's Taskmaster, but she is good here. She is beautiful. She does what she has to do. Also helps with the fact that she is very attractive in this movie. The scene with her and the Statue of Liberty, with her and Superman, and she's wearing the red dress, that is actually very seductive. As a kid, I found that attractive, and as an adult, I still find that attractive. So the acting is fine in this movie. You also have a cameo from Frank Oz, which was cut out of the film. And there are some good moments here where I do enjoy this. Perfect though. Like I said, this movie still has some issues that I have to criticize the movie for. One, I will say, we'll start off with this. The focus of comedy from Richard Lester is severely overdone in this movie. Now, I know this is what he's known for, but the comedy isn't so much of a problem in my superhero movies or anything. However, this feels like a Love and Thunder situation where some of the comedy is taken way too far at points. And at some points, it wastes the potential of some of the ideas like an evil Superman or other interpretations here where there are some moments of goofy action where it is completely ridiculous here. Like, you have moments where the villain has a sky's cloak on top of his skyscraper. You have also moments where the missiles are being operated like a video game. Some of the Richard Pryor and the overabundance of his campiness is way too far in this. Not only that, I will say this movie feels like the pace at times can be pretty boring as well. This movie's only 2 hours and 7 minutes long, so it definitely feels like you're going into this and you're seeing some moments where the film is highly, and I mean highly, so boring at parts. Also, the villain here, we're stuck with kind of one of the worst villains here, which is pretty much a wannabe Lex Luthor, which I get his plan here, but easily this plan could have went to Lex Luthor with him using computers. That I actually could have thought would have actually gone somewhere if you just use him. So unfortunately, that's one of my biggest issues when it comes to it. So this is just one of the most egregious parts of this entire movie that just didn't really work for me. No, not really, no. While some of the effects are good and some of the dialogue and the story can be interesting, it's nowhere near as interesting as the dialogue and the story of those first two movies, or even with the effects, because some of it you can tell is very dated in some parts. The flying moments and some action still looks good for what you get, but there's also some of it where it's like, what are we doing here? Also, biggest crime of the movie, it does not help that two of your biggest existential pieces of the Superman lore are completely missing between Lois Lane and Lex Luthor. Nowhere here to be found. Now, Gene Hackman, it's understandable why he did not want to come back for this, because he didn't want to be typecast as a villain. And while I do still like Margot Kidder in this movie, and she's still good in here, she's barely even in the damn thing. She's only in here for a brief cameo in this. And this is pretty much a response because she was not very happy with the decision they made to fire Richard Donner. So what did they do? They reduced her screen time to almost nothing. And that is a shame, because your two biggest essential parts, if you're not going to have Lex, the least you can do is have Lois Lane in here enough more. There.
Post-editing Joshua here. I forgot to leave this in, but I didn't even mention it in this Reeve recording. But another issue that I have here, if you can guess this issue, then you are entirely correct. Superman is treated as a side joke in his own damn movie. I do not like that. I did not like the decision as a kid. I know we're focusing on Richard Pryor here and his character, but it's called Superman 3, not Gus Gorman and Superman. And Superman should be full front and center. And he is just, that's a decision I feel like they should have thought twice about. Alright, let's get back into it to get to my overall conclusive thoughts.
But in the end, I will say Superman 3, of the older Superman films, this is not the worst thing ever. I feel like some people really do take it overboard when it comes to this movie. If you don't enjoy this movie as much, that's cool. I'm not asking you to like it. If you hate this movie, that is completely fine. It's not the first two movies. It's highly flawed, and it does have its entertaining moments. I still like Christopher Reeve. I still like the action. I still like the filmmaking. And there's still some entertaining moments to be had in the case of Superman 3. But this will only set the groundwork to what will happen, because after this, despite the fact that we got the Supergirl movie that tried and failed, and then one of the worst comic book movies ever in the case of Superman 4, which we'll get to, I can have some fun with Superman 3 and enjoy this one for what it is. I'm going to go ahead and give Superman 3 a highly recommend that. So what did you guys think of Superman 3 in the comment section down below? We're continuing the Superman review project. We are almost done. We just have a few more. All my social media links are in the description box down below. If you'd like to send the comments, you can comment as well. Share the video, subscribe, hit the notification bell to get notified. Be sure to like the video. All my social media links in the description box down below, as well as my Cash App or Chime. Also, if you're listening on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, you guys can listen there, because this will be on there in audio form. As always, stay epitastic, join the epitasticness, and you guys keep it cool.
Well, that's going to do it for the video that you just watched. If you want to see more, my channel icon is up here. If you want to see more content from me, all my social medias are right here in this end card. I will also leave a playlist and a video here for you to see what the channel is about. As always, acknowledge me, stay epitastic, join the epitasticness, and you guys keep it cool.